Hello and happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and I'm smiling from ear to ear. Why? Well, it has been one heck of a gaming week. We got two monster-sized topics to get into, one of which, and I see a lot of people in the chat already excited for this one, Asha Sharma starting a new console war. Well, that's the word on the street for folks because she got some information. I'm going to read verbatim about the trailer gate, as it's being known. Well, if you were wondering what I'm talking about, apparently Sony was all prepared to show Halo Campaign Evolved at their showcase, specifically running on PlayStation 5 Pro. And where this story gets a little bananas, and I'm going to repeat myself in a second. You know what? I'm going to save it. Let me get to introductions because I have a whole spiel that I don't want to have to, say again. Hold on a sec. Silent Cypher, holy matrimony. We met in person and it was awesome. You hung out with us. I hung out with you. It was a lot of fun. It was really such a great experience for this for the Xbox community. A lot of people that I work with on a regular basis I've never met before, and you're one of them, sir. How the heck are you, man? How was your flight home?
Well, good morning, Boom. Great to be with you guys as always. Flight was great. Nice and quick. Got back home, adjusted to the time change again, and then went right back to work, which was, I could have used a day or two off in between. I'm not going to lie.
You weren't jet lagged, huh?
No, I was jet lagged. I was jet lagged for like 2 days.
Yeah, me too. I was out of sorts for a minute.
I guess it was more than just jet lag because it's only a couple hour flight. It's more like jet lagged and event lagged all combined.
Yeah.
But no, it was great because, honestly, I had never met any of you. Everyone that I met over the time that I was there, the 50, 60 people or so that we were constantly hanging out with, I'd never met any of you in person. So to everyone that I ended up meeting, thanks for being awesome. That was a freaking great event. And what a year to be there too. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We have two monster topics to get into, and I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts and theories. But hey, Korkenstein, brother, again, awesome. We've already met numerous times. Big thank you for all the work that you did, for the event and the work that you continue to do in the community. How the heck are you feeling this morning?
Yeah, doing really good. Pretty tired. I definitely took the next day off, and then I ended up booking myself appointments anyways. So I set it up for Monday. I was like, Monday's going to be my rest day. I'm going to relax, hang out. And then I got two opportunities I could not pass up, and I had to go to those appointments. So you'll be seeing previews for those on our Xbox coming up. But I'm doing great. It's so awesome to see. Like I said, we finally got to meet the Silent Cypher, so that was awesome. I met you last year and stuff, and it was always such a great time. We always have a really good time, and I'm so happy. June is my favorite time of the month because of stuff like that. It's not about just because of all the games. It's meeting
the people, man. It's the people community.
Connection. Yeah, yes. Meeting actual community members like you, like Silent. Next year, Crispy's. I'm going to say you're going to come next year, Crispy. So I'm going to put that out in the ethos, and we're gonna make sure it comes true. So we'll meet you next year, and anybody else. It's always fun to see the community out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my brother Neo Mental to join.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna try to get him to go with me next year. He's a stubborn old goat like me, so let's see if I can get it done. But yeah, that's definitely gonna try. Crispy Bomb, what's going on, dude? You are in all of your glory. Gears of War showed on unbelievably. How you feeling, man?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Like, yeah, Gears has been all over the place. Many socials. Haven't seen it in so long. I mean, I would say when Ultimate Edition, like when we knew that it was coming back again. And it's just great to be here, and we got a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff that I think is needs to be addressed. So
yes, and we will be very pointed with some of those addressings, if you will. Forza Belvedere, brother, great to meet you finally in person. Had a great weekend. How's the missus with her ankle?
She's doing fine. Had to wrap her ankle and stuff like that, and she's been taking the ibuprofen. She's a lot more mobile than she was when you guys saw her. So
Okay, good,
everything
good,
seems to be
excellent.
recovering. But yeah, she took a bit of a tumble, a lot of walking around and stuff like that. But we had the car to drive, so once you find parking, getting to the events, one of the sidewalks did not agree with her feet. So, but man, it was great to meet everybody out there. It was great to see a lot of these games that we're looking forward to at the showcase. Just a great time overall with, the hiccup of injury and stuff. But the car ride wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. But, me being the driving fan I am, it kind of worked in my favor, I guess. But man, so much good news to talk about. And I love the fact that Xbox is full and in front of the public when it comes to misinformation and debunking that stuff. I love that they're squashing things and not letting things fester like they used to. So great to see what they're doing. Great to be here with you guys. Man, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we absolutely do. So great that you were able to get back in time. I'm glad that the missus feeling better for sure. Chat, listen, we got to get into the opening salvo for today's Breakfast with Boom. And it involves the trailer fiasco. And that is exactly what it's being called on the social. So what I have in front of me is this report confirming that Microsoft, in fact, did indeed pull a trailer for the upcoming remake of Halo Campaign Evolved from Sony's June 2026 State of Play showcase at the absolute last minute. And this is what it goes on to saying. I'm going to read verbatim from this report. The decision by newly appointed Xbox CEO Asha Sharma reportedly stunned both Sony and internal Xbox staff. Fans quickly connected the dots when Microsoft published a cinematic story trailer for the game that was prominently featured as a, quote, captured on PS5 Pro watermark. Now, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Industry insiders noted that this branding would have only made sense had the footage debuted as part of Sony's own presentation. Now, this is where it gets into detail. And I'm going to go first here to Silent Cypher. Why the plan was scrapped, it asks. According to reports from Bloomberg and industry insider Jason Schreier, the abrupt pull is part of a massive strategic pivot engineered by Sharma to, quote, reset the Xbox business. And here are a couple of key bullet points. The return to exclusivity. After a period of aggressive multi-platform expansion, Xbox leadership is aggressively steering back towards platform identity. Optics protection. To appease core Xbox fans frustrated by the previous multi-platform announcements, leadership determined it was a bad look to premiere their most iconic flagship franchise during a PlayStation event. And I absolutely agree. And I have some thoughts on that, folks. Finally, the Gears fallout. This pivot also resulted in a sudden cancellation of a planned PS5 port of Gears of War E-Day, despite retailers already preparing pre-orders for the Sony console. Now, check this out. I have some additional context. Current status of the game. Now, this report backs up something that I said, and there are a couple of people that tried to, of course, tear me down with my thing that I said take with a grain of salt, but it was because of contractual obligations, Xbox could not pull Halo and Fable. Well, check this out. I'm going to read verbatim. Current status of the game. Because Microsoft had already legally committed to the releases before Sharma changed the company's trajectory, Halo Campaign Evolved is still coming to PlayStation 5. This game is locked in for a global launch on July 28, 2026 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. However, The last-minute state of play stunt has reportedly caused severe friction and heavily strained the working relationship between Sony and Microsoft. And I say, well, tough titty, because it shouldn't be there anyway. And we know why. Legally, they couldn't pull it. And from what I understand further, Silent Cypher, it was because physical copies have already been made. Now, whether they've been shipped or not, I have no idea. But this is what is being reported, and it does back up something that I did say. But Silent Cypher, I want to bring you in. I want to get your hot take on this, because we haven't had an opportunity to talk about it. Well, we're going to do that right now. I absolutely think this is the biggest power move we have seen Xbox as a platform do what could be upwards of 5 years. Okay? Now, I'm going to say this. I have no idea who the hell is responsible and who thought taking Halo Campaign Evolved and putting it on a PlayStation showcase and not your own was a good idea. Because, folks, now I don't have this confirmed, what I'm about to say, but I have heard and I have reached out to a few people that apparently the trailer that was going to be on Sony's show was going to be the only Halo trailer shown, meaning that it would not have been put onto the Xbox game showcase. Could you just imagine the egg on the face of Asha and Team Xbox that's trying to reposition the brand, reset the brand, that their most iconic character and IP, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Could you imagine that's on PlayStation stage and not on Xbox's stage? Like, look, I'm not trying to be like a real super jerk about this, but that's got to be the goddamn most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my entire life. And I will say this publicly. Thank goodness Asha showed up and is now running the show, because that would have been that I think, and maybe I'm being a little ahead of myself here. You put something out like that, that doesn't go away. The internet never forgets. That would have been as bad as This Is How You Share Games. That's how bad of a mistake that would have been. Thank God Asha stepped in. Let's get your hot take on this, bro.
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot to take in on this one. So I think, like when I was first hearing about the potential that this was going to show at the Sony showcase, and they were going to show it at State of Play, I was like, okay, so we're gonna see it there. We're going to see it at the Xbox One also. But the idea that it wasn't even actually going to be at the Xbox show, it was only going to be at the PlayStation one. Yeah, right off the rip, bad idea. But it wouldn't have surprised me too that they probably had some sort of agreement where it would either be shown one place or the other, and so they would show it at Sony. And I'd say the optics on it alone, the fact that you're showing it off at Sony before, if it did show at Xbox, or before you're even showing the Xbox showcase, you're showing off Halo on PlayStation, not great for optics. So yeah, I'm glad they pulled it back. I honestly, it made some pretty funny content this weekend. The social media was a buzz, and some people were really flipping out about it. And I thought it was kind of funny alone for that, but I thought it was the right move for them. I really don't think that they should have had it on the State of Play. If it's going to PlayStation, we can't control that. That was a decision that was made, is what it is. But don't go right out of your way and be like, no, we're gonna help the homie out because they barely have any games this year. Let's help the homie out. Let's show off Halo on their showcase. No, you don't do that. It's unnecessary. And you can tell that Asha is on the same mindset It's why now we have Gears and we also have Clockwork, both as exclusives on the console. Now, granted, that does mean you can still play them on PC. I feel like I've seen a lot of people out there that are getting upset and pissed off because they're like, "Oh, I can't. What? I want to play it on my PC." You'll still be able to play it on a PC.
Yeah, but
It's just
see,
a
I don't understand
console
what,
exclusive.
if I may just jump in for a second.
Sure,
What
sure.
shocks me a little bit with some people is Xbox is PC, PC is Xbox. They've been doing this
Yes.
since what, 2013? Like, I don't understand how they get that confused.
And I don't know if it's all like I think some people honestly are truly actually getting it confused. I think a lot of it though is a lot of disingenuous takes just to try and smear more egg on their face and be like, "What, Xbox bad?" Because you can get it on PC. You've been able to get them on PC for years, for like a decade now, right? So it's kind of ridiculous that people are out there with that narrative. But does it surprise you? That's the thing, right? Is
No.
like, doesn't surprise me at all. But no, I think it was the right move for them. Kind of wild to me. I saw a live discourse this week, of course, of like, oh, they ripped it at the last minute, of which I saw Greenberg going back and forth with a couple people about
Yep.
the timeline on that. And they're like, oh, well, a month is still last minute. Like, yes, in ways, sure. But Asha's been in this for what, like just over 100 days. So that's like a third of the time that she's been there that they made that decision to rip it away, which again, I still maintain was the right move. Like the thing's going to be on the other system. It really shouldn't be. But if it's going to be, like, we shouldn't parade it around and be like, hey, this is great. Yeah, Paris, exactly. Like, people were talking about how they had ripped it away, and Greenberg came out and provided clarification. And I'm happy they did. I'm sure some people still ran with the narrative, but it was good to see someone go out there and kind of push back on that, because there's been a lot of aggressive takes over the last couple
Yes,
days.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
But no, I'm happy with the decisions they're making. There's a lot of things that they're changing on a very short timeline, all things considered, but they've been very good decisions so far, and I'm happy to see that they are making these decisions. I think the focus on their own ecosystem is something that we've been talking about for a long time ago, and I'm happy that they are actually making that a priority. If you were, if the exclusive thing doesn't matter to you, I would say, like, go to one of the showcases and see them announce one. Because when we were at the showcase and we saw the video pop up of Asha
Yep.
talking about Gears being exclusive, everyone lost their goddamn minds.
They went crazy, dude. Like, I have that recorded. It's unbelievable. Go to my channel and see it, the actual fan reaction. It was, and again, the trailer itself, Silent Cypher, was amazing. But it's the Asha video right after that. It was like pandemonium.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, if it's not registering, like I said, if some people are still on the fence and don't understand, like, oh, well, who wants that? Go into one of those events and watch people's response. That entire theater was in an uproar, in a good way. And it was awesome to see. Like, everyone was stoked. So.
Well, good stuff as always. Let's bring in Crispy Bomb. Crispy, look, I know someone's going to hear this and they're going to immediately invoke, oh, you guys are just console war. I actually don't think that we are. I think it's a legitimate beef. Again, I don't know who was responsible for it, but it's got to be one of the most dumb ideas I've ever thought of. Putting something as important, like, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we saw a lot of games this weekend, and I'm talking about the whole gaming weekend. And as much as we saw, the one game that I am most excited for, the one game I literally had an opportunity to play. I had the controller. It was right there. They asked me if I wanted to play it. Halo Campaign Evolved. I said no. I did not want to experience it that way. I want to be sitting on this couch here with my headphones on, alone, to just enjoy this game. That means a lot to me personally. And that one IP. I'm going to be honest with you. Someone's going to clip this, and I don't even care. It's literally, I'm sick to my stomach when I think that this game is going over there. I honestly, you can clip me all you want. That's perfectly fine. This is Xbox, Master Chief, Halo, the whole kit and caboodle is Xbox. And you know something? Even though she couldn't do it because of legal obligations, you got to give Asha credit. She gave it the old college effort. And I sit back here and I'm listening to myself speak, and I cannot believe that somebody, I'm not pointing fingers and I'm not saying who it is, whoever it was, Crispy Bomb, that thought that putting that game on a PlayStation stage before your own is just ridiculous. Let me get your hot take on this, man.
I agree. I mean, we all know now that there's a new sheriff in town. So things are going to change, and I think for the better. I think this goes back to the pillars that she put out, core before more. I mean, if your core fan base ain't on your side, then you're in trouble. And I'll be honest with you, regardless of what I've said or how I'm not like this huge Halo fan, if that happened, it would have overshadowed probably the whole showcase. It would have somehow overshadowed the greatness we saw on Gears E-Day, in my opinion. It definitely would have made it it just wouldn't have felt the way it did. And I'm with you. I mean, 25th anniversary, 25 years of Halo. I mean, Halo started it all. You could say what you want, it did. And Gears is kind of picking up the mantle. It looks so much better in UE5. I mean, I love that they're really doubling down on Unreal Engine, and you could see that they've been cooking on all fronts. So many games that are going to come out with that. So it's just, I'm glad she did it, because if you did that, if you put it on that showcase, and then especially if it didn't show up at the Xbox showcase, it's just that's all everybody would be talking about, and that's not fair to the people, the great work they've done, and all these other things. I'm glad to hear that she tried to even pull the game entirely. I always said, if you got hit IPs like we got now, if you are bringing out games that people want, you don't need to put it on PlayStation. You need to treat PlayStation like competition. You have to, because if you don't, they could probably just eat up all your ecosystem in a way. Like, we don't sell consoles, 30%, negative 30% year over year. These things that we've been seeing. I think she analyzed the whole situation. She, who knows, could be, talking to so many different people. And you say, you know what? They got a point. We should not be doing this. And I think, regardless of how you feel, how quickly it was done or not, it was done. And, it's going to happen. Halo's going to come out there, but let's treat PlayStation like competition. Stop being so buddy with them. Because if you look at how they've reacted towards you, they're not doing the same thing. If they're going to bring over, their games over to us, well, then we could have that conversation again. But until then, no, this is not what we do. And I like that she's got the kahunas to say it and do it and get it done. So it's great to see.
I want to ask you something. When you said something that was super interesting. Treat PlayStation like competition. That's a really novel idea, and it should be at the core at leadership at Xbox. And it seems that somehow got lost a little bit with prior leadership. Why? I don't know. Where? I couldn't tell you. What I can say is it safe to say, Crispy, that if it was up to Sony, they would kill Xbox altogether and send them packing, bury them 8 feet deep, and call it square?
What they do to Sega.
Hello?
I mean, history can repeat itself, people. And, sure, like you'd still have Game Pass and all these other things. But, I mean, if there's no interest in the console because you're just putting everything on PlayStation, then where are you at? And I think I've said it before, that negative 30% year over year And I know that, you know, stock is in and out and this and that, but I think that really hit home. And I think that's why Satya came out and said what he, you know, at least is co-signing this now. You tried the nice guy, and PlayStation don't play nice, dude. I'm sorry. So I'm glad to see that somebody's recognized it. Glad to see that there's a leader there, regardless of how you feel. And, you know, understand we are in a new time now, and things are going to change. And I think for the better. And like I said, PlayStation treats you like competition all day, every day. They that's why they're mad right now, because now they know that this juggernaut of amazing games that, you know, they thought, oh, we're gonna get them all, and that ain't happening no more. And yeah, there's like, you know, contractual obligations. That's retailers, a lot of different things going on there, you know. But I think if you think you're getting all these games now, I would be cautious there, Stans, because she ain't playing, and I'll leave it at that.
Great point. Korkenstein, let's bring you in, brother, get your hot take on this. Again, some of the things that are being done with Asha are different and more aggressive than they were with former leadership. You know, bringing the brand back was something that she said in her first couple of days. You know, she wanted to bring Xbox back. What did Xbox back mean? Well, I think we all hoped that meant exclusivity, and that is coming back. Now, granted, yes, it's 2 games to start. We're going to get into the second topic of the show with Mathew Ball, some of the things he had to say regarding exclusivity and a bunch of other things. But I want to get your hot take on the whole trailer gate, because, again, it has been reconfirmed that it was supposed to show up at Sony Showcase and was pulled. Now, I've heard people say last minute. It was probably pulled a month before. I know Paris is in the chat, and he was saying that, you know, he knows how these things are done, and he's not wrong. These showcases, when they're made, are usually made a month before. So it, you know, we learned about it towards, you know, where all the shows were happening, but doesn't mean it happened like, you know, 2 days before they pulled it and they snuck it into. That's not the way video development works. But the fact that she did pull it because she thought it was bad optics, I think was brilliant and a good, I would even say a great leadership move. Let's get your hot take, man.
I mean, Paris is right. I mean, this and anybody that's ever worked in production, I mean, Boom, how many, I mean, you know what it's like, because you do videos and you use stuff on YouTube, how easy it is to just cut something and you're like, there we go. Now imagine doing that for something that has like $1 million budget, and, you know, like you're putting it out to the world. You're just not hitting delete and then all of a sudden it's gone. No, there's color grading. You have so much. You have to get the audio synced. There's a ton of stuff. So this last minute stuff is a bunch of malarkey. It wasn't done last minute. Even if it wasn't done at all, maybe they just might want to just get that hype in. I don't think it was going to be at the PlayStation Showcase at all, honestly. You know, I think that whole thing, people just saw PS5 Pro and they went with that rumor, and I like I said, don't believe everything you hear, especially from someone like Schreier, who, you know, now all of a sudden is doing pro Xbox news when he's done nothing but negativity for Xbox for the last few years. So I'm a little skeptic on what he brings to the table when he reports on Xbox. With that said, yeah, I wouldn't have minded. We'll go into the hypothetical here. I wouldn't mind if Xbox had a Halo trailer on PlayStation. Just end it with, you want to see more? You'll find out more about Xbox on the Xbox Showcase. At least if you're going to do it, promote what you have coming up. And that trailer better be 10 times better than what you showed on the PlayStation. You know, that would have been smart marketing. I mean, we're talking about a 25-year-old game here. They're not really losing much. You know, same thing with like the E-Day stuff. E-Day makes sense as a console exclusive. I'll give it that. You know, they got Gears of War Reloaded. They got people to buy into the IP. Now, guess what? The only way you can play and finish your story and find out what the prequel was to what you just played is only on Xbox. Guess what they're probably going to do with Halo? guess what? You got the first level. You got to see what Halo's about. Now, the only way to finish the fight, you got to buy it on Xbox. You got to play it on Xbox. That's smart marketing. So that's why I'm not too worried about Halo on PlayStation 5. You're getting an IP, you're getting consumer base that never bought into the IP to buy into the IP now. And now that you got them hooked, just like with Game Pass, you're going to get them to come in. Hopefully the idea is to come in and play more on Xbox. It's a smart move. So yeah, with the whole trailer gate stuff, I don't honestly believe it was going to be at the PlayStation Showcase at all. And then even if it was pulled, it's not last minute. This is probably something that happened a month ago, at least at bare minimum. It's just, yeah, you just can't pull something after posts, like 2 days before, when there's already queue times lit up, there's already advertisers paid, there's already all this stuff that's happening already, color grading, post-production. You just can't hit delete and, unless they paid millions to get out of that. That's the only other way is if they're going to pay Sony a ton of money after saying, yeah, we're going to give this to you and now we're going to pull it. Sony's going to be like, sure, open up that checkbook. And I doubt Xbox is going to do that. So especially for a game that's, being ported and is a 25-year-old game that's not probably going to have a ton of sales. You never know, though. Halo is a pretty big title. But, a lot of these ports are always done to be low investment, high return. So you usually look to limit as much spending as you can on these because they are ports and you don't want them to be a $200 million budget because then that just defeats the purpose, especially for a 25-year-old game. So at least that's just my theory behind it. Anything they're going to do for this is probably going to be minimal as far as spending. So I doubt they're pulling stuff and breaking contracts just to up their budget even more than what they, to lower that return of investment.
Well, I mean, listen, I know that you don't believe Jason Schreier per se, but he, what I had, the report I have in front of me does specifically say Microsoft did indeed pull the trailer. This has been confirmed and reconfirmed. Now I know Jason Schreier, he has his connections, and I don't care for him as a human. I will admit that he does break some pretty big stories. But from what I understand, and it wasn't just him that was reporting on it, Cork. It was quite a few different outlets that reported on this. So I do believe that it's true. And I'm going to tell you this, I'll put it this way, whether it's true or it's not, I will say, and I understand, you're like, yeah, it's a 25-year-old game. I'm a principles kind of a guy. I have always been a principles guy. And just for the principle of competition, you cannot, to me, if this would have happened, I'm going to bring in Forza Belvedere and get his hot take on this. We're going to get to the second topic of the show. But in my opinion, if this scenario would have happened where Sony shows off Halo Campaign Evolved, because it might be a 25-year-old IP, this might actually be a 25-year-old game, but this game looks like a brand new AAA monster. What we saw completely blew me out of my chair. And for me to say that of every game that I can talk about, and some games I can't talk about that I got my hands on that were amazing experiences, this 25-year-old game was my favorite of the entire showcase. And I'm an OG Xbox fan. I'm an OG Halo dude. And if this trailer would have shown up in Sony's and not on Xbox's stage, this would have been one of those defining moments that could never have been erased from history. Just like this is how you share games. Just like if you don't want to go online, I got a console for you. Good old Donnie D. These are things that can never be removed. So all I'm going to say before I bring Fuzzy in to the chat is that Asha stepped in, saw the optics of this thing, looked and said, "Wow, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a really ugly look for our brand that I am trying to fix," and got ahead of it. And it's this move, along with everything that she has done, her and her entire team so far, that says that Xbox players are going to be first and our opinions matter. And I love this direction. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get your hot take on this. You're an OG like me. You remember playing Halo. How bad of a look would this have been?
To not have it on your 25th anniversary showcase, it definitely would have caused some rake stepping articles to fly out of the woodwork. I kind of at some point expected with them doing the multi-platform thing to put some of their games on a state of play, but those are games like Kiln or Hi-Fi Rush. Like those would have, I think, been more of an opportunity to show on a state of play. Halo being on there, I get it. It will be in front of their large audience that's finally getting a state of play that's kind of like their showcase for the year kind of thing. So it would have had a good place to have eyes on it, but I think those eyes wouldn't result in any significant needle moving in comparison to like the way Gears of War Reloaded did over there. So I think the core fans would have made their voices known, and I think the PlayStation Nation that probably wasn't going to buy it anyway would be just trolling on social media, and it would have been one of those cases where they take a step forward and then 2 steps back. I think it would have resulted in that type of overall appearance with them doing that. So I'm glad that they're taking these looks at the perception of the brand when it comes to how the fans are going to perceive it or potential fans, and not to extend that olive branch too far to the point where the people that you're trying to reach have no interest in your platform. They're just on social media trolling to troll. I think this was a good move in the grand scheme of things. Yes, the game is still going over there. We've discussed why and the plausible reasons of why that is. But I think having that featured at their showcase and not at their own showcase would have been a mistake. Once again, if it's a smaller game that's already been on the platform, then I think it's fine having it at a state of play. But your pillar on its anniversary year, I don't think that would have been a wise move. And I'm glad that they saw better of it and made the moves that they made. Like I can't stress this enough. It feels like the current leadership really, even if she's not a gamer, that's fine. The fact that she's taking the care for the brand and how it's perceived and working on the repair amongst the core as well as other gamers out there, I think that's a refreshing move that I'm so glad to see happening right now, for the fact that shows their commitment as far as getting the brand back up the ladder, as far as potentially competing for that number 1 spot without having it be like this kumbaya, hey, let's be friends. Oh, you're mad at me because I took this game out of your showcase? I say give them the middle finger. What benefit as a partner was Sony? If I remember that whole Azure cloud thing, they eventually poo-pooed on that. So what benefit do they have? I can't think of any. Sure, you could sell a few million copies of Forza Horizon over there, but this is a brand that has been trying to kill you since inception. And the fact that I get it, Bill Gates did not want Sony to be that computer in every living room. Remember that. And sure, I know he's far from being a relevant factor in the business type of thing. He's a shareholder, the original founder kind of deal, but that concept shouldn't be lost on any of those current Xbox employees. And I think that's the thing that they have to really look at Sony as competition. Sure, TikTok can be competition. Sure, Amazon can be competition in some regards, but in the gaming space, console space, Sony should be your number 1 priority. Not to say go out there and kill them, although I would kind of like to see them try. Not that I want to see the death of Sony, but I want to see them make the effort to put them on their heels. So maybe Sony gets back to making those weird, quirky, unique games again, as opposed to Jello cubes following, the main character around. No slight to the new God of War. It just feels a bit weird to me as far as, Jello cubes running around with swords stuck in them. But all in all, I like the fact that they're making these moves, and it seems like that strategy is going to permeate more in the sense of the console, bringing back to the forefront. And that's all I can ask.
Well, I mean, you made mention of Asha being a steward to the brand. And all we can do is look at her prior work history and what she did with Instacart. And then you fast forward, Fuzzy, to the first 100 plus days. And now we're in the second half, or the second 100 days, where she has been quoted in saying the next 100 days is going to be resetting the business. Now, we don't know what that's going to look like. There's speculation, there's talk. But I do have to say, and I want to just get your hot take on this, is that there is a clear and concise way of doing business. And she, at almost every move that she has made, Fuzzy, has brought the Xbox fan with her. Everything has been explained. There hasn't been anything that's been vague. There hasn't been anything that's been shadowed that, maybe we'll tell you. She has kept us up to date on what she wants to do. And at the forefront of this is the brand, the platform, making it a platform that is not only important to future customers, but the important part is the customers that are here. And they shed a lot of customers. There were a lot of people, some extreme, some we don't mention names. Well, we never mention names anyway, but there were some people that were, a little extreme on their, distaste for Xbox. And were they wrong? I'm not going to say they were wrong. They were disgusted with multi-platform. I get it. There were a few other things that were done, but since she has taken over, there hasn't been anything vague about what they're doing, where they're going, how they're going to get there. But the one thing I will say, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is how she has made Xbox and the platform itself an absolute priority in bringing it back. Any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's great to see that they're making those efforts. Like I think making the brand as well as the console the center point. We all kind of thought maybe this was just some CEO buzz on the first couple of days, but every step that they've made that she's pretty much put in force has shown that was not just talk, it was actual action, or followed up by action that shows that there was a definite purpose and meaning behind that. So this is the type of thing you love to see in business, where a brand rallies back around its roots or the things that made it relevant in the past, and not just reliving old memories, but also moving forward with future IP, with potentially, like with the whole reset, potentially even more ways of being able to play, possibly with a more affordable console setup or pricing, or different ways. Like me and Mav talked about, I know the all access program kind of, I wouldn't say sputtered, but potentially seeing things along those lines, or maybe a return of like the Keystone device as an alternative, or having it where the memory and the SSD might be in the cloud, considering that those might be the next approaches to kind of gain that market share without people having to break the bank to get into these consoles. So I'm loving the approach she's taken on business. And yeah, I want to see what it's like a year from now and how much further they've grown as far as not just the subscription base, but the player base. And hopefully the gaming media will kind of catch on. Some of them are already there. Some were already, pushing or rooting for Xbox, but it's time to get the ones that just seem to have these, bad takes, when they say, oh, well, this is good, and oh, now it's a cheap win kind of stuff. Some of that stuff needs to sort itself out, or maybe they need to sort themselves out, or just maybe Xbox needs to, avoid those, media outlets that aren't really genuine when it comes to their fandom for gaming. Their fandom for gaming might be, one-sided or one particular platform without, giving the other platforms a fair shot or a fair chance. But we'll see how things play out.
Indeed, we will, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that is topic number 1, and we are right at the middle of our 90-plus minute show. Got to catch up on Super Chats, but I need a favor, folks. I hate asking for help, and I normally don't ask for anything. I'm more of a giver than a taker. We're 13 subs away from 17K. 13. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to ask, and I see a lot of new faces in here, and maybe I've never noticed the names because this chat does go rather quickly, and we do get a lot of people. There's 617 people watching. There's got to be at least 13 of you that are not subscribed for one reason or another. Maybe it's my rhetoric, and that's fine. Listen, if you don't want to subscribe, I'm not going to beg for it. But I am going to ask that if there are 13 people that are not subscribed, I'm dropping a link in the chat right now. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Again, I normally don't care about the numbers because we are and have been recognized. But the one thing I will say is that some places watch the stuff and they like the way I conduct myself and, the fact that we don't really curse, stuff like that. And I've been told that. But others look at spreadsheets and they only look at the number. So if my number is 17, maybe that gets me in the door into something that 16 didn't. So we're going to keep trying to get to that, magic 20, 25, 30, 50, 100. Will we ever get there? I don't know. I've been doing this a long time, 9 years as of November 3rd. So, we're going to keep doing it, and hopefully we'll get there. But I'll start small with just hitting 17K. So if there is 13 people in this chat that like the work that I'm putting down, please consider subscribing. It'd be greatly appreciated. But let me catch up on these super chats, and we'll get into what Mathew Ball had to say. Now, he sat down with Christopher Dring, and there is a lot of information. As a matter of fact, it wasn't a part of the story, but this is how Xbox, their new leadership is listening, because now I know a lot of people don't like Shinobi 602. They call him a pony. Listen, folks, I've been using Shinobi's work for years. If for some reason he's one of my friends on Nintendo Switch, it's the craziest thing, right? Like, I don't know how did that happen. Well, he's one of my friends there. He said something regarding a report, and Mathew Ball literally said, "Hey, hold on a sec, that was incorrect," and corrected him, and he did it, not in a snarky way. And Shinobi thanked him. We're gonna read that verbatim because it just goes to show you there's a real different tone to the Xbox leadership branding that's going on right now. But we have Adidas 20 in the chat, who's been a channel member, ladies and gentlemen, for a whopping 39 months. Salute to you, kind sir. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And he simply says, salute to everyone. Indeed, my brother. Thank you so much for that. Birdo, or DJ Birdo DOS. Well, it's great to see you here, brother. He drops a very generous $5 question. Yeah, here we go. This is the trigger point for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try and keep it a buck and not get triggered. He says, "Boom, that's an easy question. It's the dude that wore the PS t-shirt when he first told us that Halo was going to be released on PlayStation." Let me tell you something, man. I'm not going to get triggered. But if there is one thing that just vexes me in the worst way, it's that moment in time. Like you're at an Xbox event, you're a Halo, and you're rocking a look. It was a bad take, and I'm gonna stop myself from ranting right there. DJ Birdo, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for the generosity. I think that was a bad move, but okay. We're gonna move on now. The one true Brett Bob, who himself has been a channel member for a whopping 39 months. He goes on to say, Microsoft is going to slash marketing. What marketing? There hasn't been any marketing since the 360. When Asha put out that post where she added the link to this letter that went out to all Microsoft and all Xbox employees regarding what they're going to be doing. And of course, there's going to be tough decisions. Obviously, probably at the center of that is layoffs. And I've already said my piece on it. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. I really don't. I mean, I'm a union guy. I have been my whole life. And nobody wants to be able to say, man, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to send my kids to school? How am I going to, put food on the table? Nobody wants to do that. And in 2026, that's a scary disposition. So yeah, things are going to happen. But if you've been listening to me for a while, I have been banging the drum for years on how egregious their messaging and marketing has been. Just awful. So slashing the budgets, that's a really good question, dude. I don't even have an answer for that. Like I don't. I'm with you. What budgets? Now, are those budgets are big salary people that might just be sitting around drinking lattes, not actually doing their job? Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. Maybe, but I can say I'm right there with you. What marketing budgets? What are we talking about? So look, when you say, and I mean when Asha says in the next 100 days they're resetting the business, not just Xbox, they're resetting the business. That means that they are going to be trimming the fat. What does that exactly mean? Well, we're going to find out. Are people going to be, relieved of their duties for not doing what they're supposed to do? Potentially. So somebody was taking the money and not doing what they were supposed to do because their marketing has been terrible. I mean, that's the best I got, brother. But thank you so much for supporting the channel. My brother, JMac800, who's been a channel member for a insane 55 months. JMac, thank you so much for the insane generosity, brother. He goes on to say, hashtag break eggs to make new omelets. I mean, yeah, that's what they're going to be doing. They're literally going to be breaking some eggs and making a new omelet because the old omelet don't taste so good. He says, hashtag gray beards in the building. Xbox for the win. Yeah, Xbox indeed for the win. They are winning. They're winning on a lot of fronts. And one of the most important fronts, I think, that we kind of got away from and we've been waiting a long time to get here is first party output. And they are dominating the entire industry when it comes to that. They're I mean, we haven't even had an opportunity to sit down and really dig our heels into the sand and talk about 2027. I think I might actually do that on Tuesday. But thank you so much for the generosity. JJ saying 117 in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, morning. All of this does make me wonder what really happened before Phil and Sarah left. I'll be very interested what they would say if they could. I don't know if we're ever going to find out. That's why I don't speculate. I try to be as fair as I can. I mean, look, I've always been a Phil guy. I'm always going to defend Phil. Maybe you can even call me an apologist, and that's fine. I've had many opportunities to talk to him personally. He's a gentleman of a man, and he does care. Sarah, one of the smartest women you will ever talk to. She walks into the room and she knows what she's talking about. Now, were decisions made that ultimately now don't look great? Yes. Who made those decisions? I don't know. And I don't want to speculate. But I will continue to say that if the former leadership was doing what the business needed it to do, they would still be in their positions, and there would not be new leadership across the board. That is the best thing I got. But appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you for the generosity. It's me, the broke boy. What a nice conversation privately yesterday with Will. Great to see you here, brother. Thank you so much for the very generous $2 super chat. He says, subbed with 7 accounts now. What else do you want? Thank you so much for that, brother. I appreciate it. I do think that YouTube somehow gets rid of those. But listen, once we hit the 17K, we're locked in. So thank you so much for that. Gamer by choice. Wow, this is crazy. We have a lot of ridiculousness happening in this chat. First of all, Gamer by Choice has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships, which is insane. So Gamer by Choice, thank you so much. Corkenstein, who's sitting on the panel, has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Again, Cork, that's just insane. You did too much, sir. Thank you so much for that. Well, I appreciate it. Tim the Sorcerer has gifted 1 double barrel gaming membership. Tim, thank you so much for you do that all the time, brother. I do greatly appreciate it. And again, this is where we get insane, folks. Silent Cypher, sitting on the panel, has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Another insanity move. Thank you so much for the generosity. BT Maverick, who we all met, and I met him last year and got to hang out with him the entire weekend, has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Gentlemen, that is insane generosity. And of course, we are going to turn that around and put all of that generosity back into the channel, into some form of giveaway, because that's a lot. We can't keep all of that. So we're going to use that all to repopulate some of the upcoming giveaways. Thank you, everyone, for that. That's incredibly generous. Tim the Sorcerer has been a channel member for 47 months. He says, by the time you read this, you should have 17K. Thanks for all the shows. It has been awesome. Panel as well. And, of course, the chat carry on. You know what? I'll go there and I'll check it in real time. Let me just see. And I love getting these milestones like live on the air because the community is involved. And okay, so I don't know exactly where we are. I have to actually go. I'll tell you exactly. You know what? Let me get in there. Let me get into the YouTube studio, because when you go to the actual channel itself, it still says 16.9. I can tell you when you get into so we are 16,988 away. So we are 12 away, ladies and gentlemen. 12 subs away from 17K, and you can help us get there. We also have a last super chat here of Roy Van Dalen in the chat. So Roy, great to see you here. Thank you so much for the very generous, I believe that is a €6 super chat. It could be a pound, but it looks like a euro to me because I have old man eyes. He says, hi, Mr. Boom. I want to complain about PR2. Here in Europe, this is a great freaking point, Roy. He says, here in Europe, Xbox is MIA, really bad. Should be easy to fix. I assume they think that they are experts. The other side of the pond where you are, Roy, I mean, I have Jamie Moran, who's, of course, he's from the UK, and he tells me how terrible the marketing is. I mean, it's bad here. Like, you would think that, outside of like some of like when you go to Times Square in New York, it's fucking Times Square. Of course, they're going to have advertisements there because everybody that's visiting New York goes to Times Square. So you're going to have stuff there. But they need an absolute full-on reset. And, I think that's where Mathew Ball comes into the conversation, which we're going to get into. But thank you for the generosity, brother. We super appreciate it. Can I
join in?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
You and I both talked to him, but Boxenberg actually made a Twitter post about this.
Yes, he did. We both retweeted it too.
Yep. So if you want visibility, go to his tweet. I'm trying to see if I can find it, and I'll post it in the chat. Repost it for him, and that way you can get that word out.
Yeah, I'm glad you made mention of that. So Roy, Boxenberger, who is from Germany, he works with the Wandering Dutch, who is is Dutch from the UK? I'm not even sure.
So
yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I mean, so basically, what happened? We're in a couple of DMs, Roy, and a lot of our European brothers had said, "Hey, listen, we're putting out this massive tweet asking Xbox for help because they are listening." What I can suggest is, I believe Boxenberger did it. There is the Xbox voice, right, that they just initiated like a month ago. That's one of the big topics. So go type in the advertisement in Europe, and you might actually be able to find it. And yeah, they are using that player's voice. That's what it is, player's voice. Definitely go check that out. Yeah, they need to do something. And you're right. I actually think Europe would be an easy win for them. I don't know why it's so difficult, but hopefully that does get fixed, because Europe is a big market. I mean, this PlayStation is, man, 6-1. Maybe shit, it may even be more than that. It's just crazy. But thank you so much for reminding me, Cork. If you can find it, that would be dope. So we have wow, this is just ridiculous. The Silver Afro, who's been a incredible community member for years in the chat, has gifted 10 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. This is becoming I'm ashamed to have to read these, because this is too much generosity. We don't like taking, folks. We like giving. And not to be outdone, Silent Cypher has gifted 5 more Double Barrel Gaming memberships. This is absolute complete insanity, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, I promise that we are going to give it back. We're going to pour this right back into the channel. This is unbelievable. Thank you so much, everyone, so far. But you know what? Let me pull up what I'm talking about. So, okay, so there's a couple of reports here that we're going to be using, one of which is from Idle Sloth, who met all of you guys out there. And what a beautiful man. Him and his girlfriend, beautiful people. Great to meet them. I've met them before, like I think last year or even like the year before. But we have a post from him, and we have a post here from Ecstasies, who, of course, if you don't know who he is a Spanish YouTuber, very well connected. But what I want to do is go into my own personal DM, where I have this back and forth with Shinobi 602. And again, it was done classy. Mathew Ball was not a jerk about it. So let me just get into that, and I will read it verbatim. Just find where my actual DM is. So I'm getting messages like crazy. So just give me a second to load that up. Okay, so Shinobi 602 posted this yesterday. And he goes on to say in his tweet, Xbox is floating the idea of in-game ads, noting that they may have potential to keep our products affordable, meaning there's going to be ads. According to Shinobi, the goal is to ensure they can continue to fund outstanding work from development teams at Xbox Game Studio. Now, this report that he has linked came the way of Windows Central. So this was not something that Shinobi just pulled out of the air and put out there. He pulled this from a Windows Central article, which I will, of course, include into the show notes. Now, 12 hours ago, Mathew Ball responded directly to Shinobi 602. And he simply starts off by saying, "This is not correct." In the interview, I am asked about a comment I made before being hired at Xbox, then state that I was only 10 days into the role and that I am not stating the company plans or its beliefs. What I do say is that the ads should be used to offer a more affordable alternative alongside today's ad-free experiences, in the hopes more could play as a result, similar to how Netflix and Disney Plus have ad tiers with the same content but at half the price or so. At no point did I even mention in-game ads. And he goes on to say, and I quote, "I personally believe interrupting the gameplay experience would be bad." And of course, Shinobi 602 responds in kind by simply saying, "Thanks for the clarification on it being implemented in possible ad tiers or the offset cheaper pricing is at least more palatable than the alternatives. Appreciate the insight. So that was a back and forth. And why I read that is because it just proves once again, chat and panel, that Xbox is in fact listening. They really are. And, you know, like I said, I know a lot of people in this chat don't care for Shinobi 602. I get it. I understand. People think he's a pony. I never actually got that, but I'm not going to argue with you if you think so. Has he done some tweets that make me go, God, man, Shinobi, that was a really bad one? Yes. Have I done a tweet like that? I try not to be honest with you. I read my tweets 3 times before I post. I know that sounds like ridiculous, but I'm you know, it's just me and Mrs. Boom that runs Double Barrel Gaming. So if she's not on social media, so she's never going to say anything. She doesn't even have a singular fingerprint, which that's how she likes to be. She does all behind the scenes stuff. So if I say something that hurts the channel, then it's on me for being stupid. So I try not to do those things. Well, what I want to talk about is a particular quote that comes the way of Mathew Ball, and it says simply, Xbox is fixable. That is the crux of this conversation and where we're going to go. So do I believe Xbox is fixable? 1,000% times 1,000%, whatever that equals. There is absolutely no doubt that Xbox is fixable. You know why that is, folks? Because, yes, they're in 3rd place. Yes, some of their games are going to competing hardware, which I still think sucks and I don't like. I've never liked it, but I understand it. Some things have been made exclusive. Exclusivity is coming back. I gotta be honest with you, and I know that this is going to make somebody on this panel very excited. You could not have done a better job, in my opinion, than making Gears of War E-Day full-on console exclusive for Xbox. Now, yes, it's going to launch on PC, but PC is Xbox, and Xbox is PC. But this interview, now look, I'm not going to get into the particulars of my distaste for Christopher Dring. That's not what we're here to do. I am going to, for professionalism purposes, add his link to his interview, because that's what professionals do, to the show notes. I'm not going to go into my distaste for him because I don't really think that he has Xbox in the best place anytime he talks about it. But we're here to talk about his interview with someone that does, and that's Mathew Ball. So thanks to Idle Sloth, who broke down a lot of what it was said on the interview, which we're not going to watch live on the air, but I am going to use his bullet points here. And these are everything we're going to read are quotes from Mathew Ball, and then we're going to bring the panel in and get their hot takes on this. So according to that and panel, goes on to say the big Mathew Ball interview, quote, the console market is not dying. He goes on to say, quote, it has become difficult to articulate why you should pick up an Xbox console. Exclusives are an important way to do that. This is why you'll have seen such a quick shift to exclusives. We have an obligation to work harder and more clearly to explain why you should be an Xbox player. Mathew Ball goes on to say, we will invest more in its big IP, cut back on niche productions. Now, I want to stop there for a second, and I want to explain what he means by that. So under Phil Spencer, what we understand, and he's even said it himself, he was not in the business, in the way he was a leader for Xbox for all those years, to tell a specific studio what to make. I know this for a fact because when I had dinner with Phil, I specifically brought up Banjo-Kazooie. And you know the look that he gives you, he kind of does that head tilt and smiles. That's Phil. And we love that about him. And he goes, yeah, Rare doesn't want to make it. And we don't make anybody make something they don't want to make. And you know what? Honestly, on paper and hearing that in person, that's pretty damn endearing, right? Like, you don't want to be the overlord, right? Like, go and make this or else. But the problem with that is sometimes you gotta steer the ship. And I think, and this is my opinion, right? I don't want to speak for Mathew Ball, right? This is just my opinion. I think what he means by cut back on niche productions are games like Kiln, games like the one with the tower that Double Fine made.
Keeper,
yes, thank you. I really thought Keeper was fantastic. But if you're asking me as a fan, not a fanboy, not a console warrior, not an Xbox, what would I love personally for Double Fine to do? No, it's not Banjo-Kazooie. I would love for them to have either remade Psychonauts 1 in modern graphics, which that would have been a game that would have sold gangbusters because of how much 2 sold. And you know what? Crazy or not, you leave that multiplat because 2 was multiplat. And it goes all over the place, and maybe it sells 5 million. Maybe it goes crazy and sells 10 million copies. Talking to Everborn Saga, specifically on Psychonauts itself, and I agree with him on this. If you look at the characters, if you look at the world, look at the story, the art that surrounds that incredible IP, it has transmedia written all over it. Like, I can see a film. I can see toys. I can see this being an animated series somewhere. Like, I can actually see that happening. So if it's me and you're asking me personally, chat, I would have much rather than Keeper, rather than Kiln, I know there were small teams that made it. I would have much rather them take an established IP that has a real bankable appeal to it and made Psychonauts remade, however they want to do it. And then after that was successful, because I know it would have been, you go and you make 3. And I think that, the way that Phil used to do business was magical. Hey, man, just go make what you want, make a game for us, we're good, right? But unfortunately, there were a lot of games that were made that didn't sell. And Asha said something, and I again, I'm just speculating. It's my interpretation of what she said, not fact. That she said they were going to be more focused on bigger IP, like some of the big IP. She didn't specifically say which ones didn't have enough investment. My question to you, chat, was that Halo? Because how long have I been saying, what the hell is going on at 343 now Halo Studios? Like, we never got a follow-up. We never got any DLC for Infinite. I mean, it's just, there was so much left on the table that we're never going to get, right? We're just going to have to move on with it. That sucks. But yeah, maybe that was one of the studios that weren't invested enough into. I don't know. I mean, I thought the leadership over at 343 was just terrible. And I don't think any of those people are there anymore. And let's hope that the next Halo is not going to have a decade worth of development time. Like we actually get one in the next 2 or 3 years. But I think that is when he says they're going to cut back on niche productions. I know there's going to be some people like, oh man, I like those niche games. Yes, 10 people do, right? 10, 15, 20 people, but they need to invest in big IP. That's what they need to do. He goes on to say, Xbox can improve. How hard will it be, or how long will it take are the different questions, right? Now, Idle goes on to say, Xbox's now this is for Roy. Roy, check this out. This is for you, brother. Xbox's presence in is smaller in the EU and Japan. PC is the most popular. Quote, Windows is where the world plays. This is according to Mathew Ball. So we encourage players to do so in those markets. Now that's not an answer. But the fact that it's been mentioned about both Japan and Europe means that they are aware that there is a problem. Working hard to rethink Helix, make things more affordable, and develop new business models. Now, the new business models that he's referring to, and I think this is what Asha was referring to, and again, it's my speculation, along with Asante and several others, that it's OEM devices, meaning that there are going to be other companies like Asus, like Lenovo, like Dell, like Alienware that are going to make cheaper Xbox products. Will they be the same power? I honestly don't know, but I know that if you don't want an Alienware, you can buy a Surface. If you don't want to buy a Surface, because Surface PCs are expensive, you can go out and you can buy a Dell or something that's more affordable. I actually think that's what Asha meant when she said that we have to figure out how to get other partners involved in manufacturing of hardware. I think that's it sounds like OEMs to me, but let me continue. Goes on to say, and again, this is via the game business that is run by, of course, who he is. The console is growing, not dying. And according to Mathew Ball, there is no desire to move away from the console. And, I'm going to go first to Silent Cypher on this. Silent Cypher, look, I don't know how many times they have to continue to say this. The console isn't going anywhere. Asha said in her first 10 days that at the core of Xbox is the console. Now, the console, she did say in that interview that she just did, it's almost 5 times the amount of where it's supposed to be in its lifespan. That's the market. That's the Rampocalypse as we know it. And it could actually go higher, which is why for Helix specifically, not current hardware, but for Gen 10 that she made mention of, they're going to have to find some new innovative ways to get more Xbox hardware out there so people can choose what price best suits their budget. And OEM devices will actually do that. And here's the thing. A console sale will be a console sale, whether it be from Dell, Lenovo, Asus, Alienware. It's going to be an Xbox console just made by somebody else. So you will have more consoles in the wild to sell more hardware and more subscriptions to Xbox Game Pass, which still remains one of the best services and most affordable services for that matter. So to me, that particular plan sounds fantastic. But I want to get your thoughts on some of the stuff that we read and some of the stuff that you personally heard about this Mathew Ball interview.
Yeah. So obviously not to dwell on the situation, but we kept finding ourselves during this last weekend right next to Dring on a regular basis. Like I'd take a photo and all of a sudden I noticed, oh, he's right behind me. And it happened like multiple times. I think even FarQ, shout out to FarQ. He, when we were there, I think the first night he's like, hey, I think that's, and I looked over, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who that is. Whether we like him or not, I guess the way I'll say it in the most professional way I can is I never went over to say hi. So that'll tell you whatever you want to know about that. But in regards to the interview, still worth looking over and listening to the details on because they do talk about a lot of stuff on there. And I did want to touch, because you mentioned, of course, like Halo Campaign Evolved, or well, 343 in general. But I do have to give Campaign Evolved some credit because I did get to try that this last week.
Oh, you did play it. What'd you think?
Yes. Yeah. And so I enjoyed my experience. I thought it was playing really well. The pacing that I was concerned about, some of the stuff I had mentioned back in the days was like introducing new weapons, adding the sprint, stuff like that. I didn't see how that would really work very well without kind of breaking that core pace that the game had back in the day. And as I was playing it, I was fortunately relieved of that concern. It felt really good. The thing I will say though is one of my buddies that I was hanging out with, I will not name names because I don't want anyone to snipe him for looking into details. But one of my friends I was hanging out with that day happened to discover that the system we were playing on had a 5090 in the box. I don't know about some of the other details, but you would figure that the tech specs on that thing were pretty high for the systems that we were playing on. Now, I know that they had Xbox dev kits there. They had PCs. They had an array of systems for you to play around on. And my experience was really good. However, I did hear some rumblings from people that were playing co-op over at the couch that were having some issues, some frame issues, some hiccups and stutters here and there and stuff. And so like, who knows, but obviously we're still not to actual launch just yet. So those type of things could probably be fixed accordingly. But yeah, I did want to say that real quick before I forgot. Halo's looking good from what I'm seeing so far. Hopefully the rest of the game looks as good as that first mission did. But going back to some of these other things, smaller games possibly getting shuttered to kind of lean into the bigger experiences. Asha mentions the fact that the next 100 days are a reset of the business. And it wouldn't surprise me if we saw some things get shuttered. Unfortunately, I think that's going to happen. To what extent, I don't know. Hopefully it's not bad. Hopefully it's more of redundancies in certain things that aren't as necessary, or hopefully they just have enough coverage. Hopefully it's not actually studios, but if we saw a couple get shuttered or shifted into working as support studios for others, I wouldn't be surprised, I suppose. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully that doesn't happen and it's like for the best for everyone. But they're going to make choices. She had said previously about the idea of having hard decisions to make. We saw one or two hard decisions, some that benefited us and not another brand, another console that is, and we might see some that might hit us too, and hopefully it all just works out. But I think they are really addressing everything in a very detailed fashion just to make sure that they're trying to target things and trying to make the business more successful and actually viable in areas that maybe it hasn't been for a while. And that could be a little scary, but hopefully it'll all work out. They are working on course correcting and shifting a lot of focus from some of the stuff we heard. It definitely feels like there were some pain points with where things were going up until recently when Asha took over. And a fresh pair of eyes on the situation is a good thing. I think first off, Mathew Ball did a really good job with this interview. He's actually just like we've been seeing on social media recently from Xbox in general. He's been really good at targeting and correcting if he sees something out there that's not right, which has been good. I'm super happy to see Xbox having a backbone again, because it feels like for a long time they would kind of lean over and be like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's fine. Like we're gonna kumbaya this. You can't kumbaya this. Your opposition doesn't care whether you live or die. Like I'm pretty sure if Sony and Xbox were a person and they're both standing up on a cliff looking over the hillsides, Sony would just smack them right off the edge of the cliff, because Sony doesn't care about Xbox in that way. It's the idea of their relationship being strained because of the possible removal of the Halo trailer from their showcase. Dude, what relationship? Like, come on. I know I didn't
There
talk
is none.
earlier,
Yes.
but like that relationship is toxic. Like that's that toxic ex that you have that you're just like, oh gosh, I wish they'd go away. That's kind of what that relationship feels like. So I don't feel bad for them in that situation. But going back to the interview, I feel like they did touch really well on some things. Mathew Ball is very he's I think something we're getting with this, and Asha's mentioned it as well, is we're getting a lot more clarification and actual detail, and not just the niceties that we want to hear. Like they're accepting the fact that there are changes that need to be made. They're trying to address those. It's an early point in the business for both of them, especially Matt, where he just came on recently. But they're all stepping back. They're looking at this and making a decision, determining what needs to be made priority. And it's putting the console back as focus. We've seen a lot of that stuff already, showing the fact that they're acknowledging and bringing back console exclusives or ecosystem exclusive, focusing on the console being the exclusive place for some of these games, as well as providing a lot of updates to the user interface, listening to a lot of feedback that the community is providing. I think that's a really good trajectory for them. I enjoyed the interview. I may not like Dring so much, but it was a good interview nonetheless. And I'm happy to hear the transparency that we're getting from Xbox right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's again, my personal opinion of Dring is irrelevant at this point. It's not why we're here to talk about. What we are here to talk about is specifically some of these bullet points I'm about to read. Crispy Bomb, I want to bring you in for get your hot take. But before I do, let me just read some of these key highlights from the interview. Now, Silent Cypher just made mention of something, and this is important, ladies and gentlemen, for context. Specifically, Mathew Ball points out the importance of return to console exclusives. And according to this report in front of me, Ball admitted that it had become, quote, difficult to articulate why customers should pick the Xbox console over its competitors. Goes on to say, to rebuild a solid identity, Xbox is returning to a reliable pipeline of console exclusives like Gears of War E-Day and Clockwork Revolution to, check this out, validate historical player investments. That's big. You have to understand something. I've been saying this for a while. You cannot have your game everywhere when you're trying to sell your own hardware. You see, I think, Crispy, it's safe to say that they tried to wear both hats on the top of one head, and that's not the way it works. Yes, you can be a publisher, but you also have to be a platform first, and your platform is supposed to come first. And it did seem like that was shifted, and now they're trying to shift that back. I want to get your thoughts on some of the things that has already been said about Mathew Ball and what he had to say about, quote, bringing back Xbox.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He must have a little part of his heart that's like, no, we have to bring Xbox back. We can't have what has been transpiring. We tried the other way. We did. And I think the way he analyzes things, it's like, hey, like, look, let's give him the benefit of the doubt for a little while. And that's kind of the way I do things. And then you say, no, that don't make sense. No, that's not good. It comes a time where you say, okay, like, are we a platform? Do we sell consoles? Do we have a substantially large service that provides a service that none of the other competitors do? Do we have an ecosystem that, if we actually invest in, is is evolving and can be something even bigger than what it is. All of these things. And, you know, we've heard bullet points from past people that, you know, sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, you know, and if you look at it, you have to tell the hard truth. And I like how Asha worded it. I like how he's, you know, doing interviews and he just started and he has a pulse because, you know, people have looked to him over the years with his I forget what it's called, but he does a huge you know, state of gaming or
Yeah, he
something
does.
like that.
That's what he's
So
known for. Yeah.
He has a pulse. I mean, I mean, good on Asha to bring him in, number one, because you have to say, when we say exclusive, it has to be exclusive. And that's why I think people are like, you know, like, oh, well, Gears of War E-Day is going to come. And then you see a lot of people like, no, it's not. And including people in the brass, like, and
Yep.
articles coming out. You have to do these type of things. You have to let them know that it's never going there. And it comes down to the IPs that you release, how good the game looks, how spectacular it could be, how you know, zeitgeist moments type thing. And I think he really does have a pulse. I think that's why, like, you know, I don't have the same distaste for Dring as some people. I play in these waters. I
Yes, you do,
challenge
sir.
people. I challenge people all the time. Some people, you know, people that I have respect for have gotten mad at me over the years. So it's one of those things that, you know, we need to understand that they are going to do some weird things. Like the ad tier, for example, but if it's $10 a month and you still get, you know, all the games, not necessarily day and date, but not quite as long after, or necessarily you just go day and date and it's just you're gonna get ads before you start the game, and then when you're in the game you're done. And maybe like, and I've said this before, Boom, when you actually kind of were like, oh, that's actually, you know, makes sense, like you pause the game and an ad shows up, and then as soon as you start it goes away. Like, I understand some people would hate that. I'm an ultimate subscriber. Like, I'm not,
But
you
some
know,
people wouldn't mind it though. There
that's
are
what I'm saying.
It's
you
like
know?
YouTube Red, for instance, right? Like there's YouTube Premium, right? Where there are no ads, and there are people in the chat like, listen, I don't give a shit about ads. It's fine. It just plays, and I continue watching the podcast. I mean, listen, when it comes to entertainment, people's affordability scale is from top to bottom. Some people can afford not to watch ads. Some people don't want to watch ads. Some people are like, listen, if I'm getting this for this price, I don't care what they show. And that's okay too.
And you know, think about it this way. Like, I've had Prime for years. Prime has had ads for years, unless you upgrade. They've done this for a long time. Prime Music, you know, if you don't want the commercial, you do an upgrade. I understand. I don't like it either, but also I grew up during cable. Okay, when cable was the prominent thing, and all we had was commercial, and then they would literally like set it up so, like, to make sure that you would, you know, keep watching the TV show after the ad. I think this is a little better. I'm just saying. Also, you know, obviously you got to be, you know, frugal and smart of what you're gonna, you know, upgrade to or not. Like, I still, you know, like I use regular YouTube to this day, and every once in a while I'm in the chat and all of a sudden a stupid ad pops up, and then I can't, you know, put my thought out there until I hit the X. That's okay, in my opinion, because YouTube Red's been out there for a long time and it is what it is. I'm not going to buy it. So I look at it and say, if you provide affordability in a way, even though there's an inconvenience there, but it's much more affordable, that's not the worst thing. I can be that subscriber to Ultimate. I think he understands that exclusives have a place, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's no way that they are going to go full on exclusive. But if you continue to keep exclusive, so when you say it's exclusive, that's it. And if some leak comes out or something else, or somebody has some code from whatever years ago and they decide to go with it, just remember that they already said that, hey, we pulled E-Day, hey, we pulled a lot of things. Always remember that they're being very transparent. Now, it might be through a couple different avenues to do that in some cases, but if you stay pat, if you do exactly what you're saying, there could be a renaissance in gaming, because what I saw at that showcase proves to me of what I've been saying. If you got the hit IPs, people are going to want them. And, for the people that say Xbox gamers don't buy games, I'm going to challenge you at the end of this year. Because I'm going to tell you right now, from what I've seen from a couple people, that Gears of War E-Day Collector's Edition sold out twice.
Yes. And by the way, the
$340 about there.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
That's a lot. Look, you could say what you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm on all the, a lot of different social media platforms. And I'm going to tell you, Facebook, I mean, it's all, it obviously has different algorithms and stuff like that. It's just all of that. E-Day. And they're not even talking about it if it's exclusive or not. Some are, but it's very few and far between. Hey, I need this. Hey, I want this. The comment sections, I go in there and it's like, man, this made me feel something again about Gears that I forgot about, stuff like that. Like, you have the hit IP. They picked the right ones. And I think Clockwork is going to absolutely smash. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be one of those things like, oh, I really kind of want to play that. But guess what? If you have a PC, if you have a decent, even like tablet, probably you're going to be able to try it out. If you want to get the ROG, you don't need PlayStation, but you need to, at minimum, pick and choose. And the one thing I'll say, and it goes back to, the beginning of the conversation, one game that I would pull is Forza Horizon 6.
Oh, yeah, me too. I don't know if that's possible, but yes, I would. That's a big one, dude. Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, I got down this rabbit hole. Japanese players are looking at it with a side eye at minimum. And the ones that really want it are buying. They're going out and finding Xboxes that were traded in and stuff like that.
Yes. You keep posting all those things. Absolutely.
They are really, it's palpable. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you say that's exclusive, you're going to tap into a market you have never truly had a foothold in. And then you have E-Day, which they are also looking at with a side eye. And that's exclusive as well. You're tapping into markets that you have never tapped into. And that's where I'm with you. Like, you got to start doing some marketing. You got to start, I get Gamescom. I understand that. But you got to do more than that in Europe. You have to. Okay? People are a little weary about Sony right now. Trust me. You could have all the stands tell you whatever you want. But people are wary about Sony right now and what they've done. People, you could say they haven't done the same things that may happen. Like, I'm the type of person that says, okay, like if they say Turn 10 is absorbed into Playground, would you be mad?
No.
I think it's logical. They helped with Forza Horizon 6. So I don't know. I'm the type of person, hey, glass half full. Let's see where it goes from there. Is it going to fill up? Is it going to be perfect? It never usually is. But in going rage bait and all these other ways that a lot of people do, if you read through the tea leaves and you say, well, Why would Asha come in here and do something as bombastic as making Clockwork and Gears E-Day exclusive? Because she's seen that they backtrack all the time. And you understand that probably Matt Ball's sitting there like, yeah, we can't backtrack anymore. And these are hit IPs. We must keep them. And that's where you say, okay, like, I understand like the Double Fine talk. I get that. But understand that those budgets are low.
Yeah, they
I
are.
don't necessarily think that that's, but maybe, you know, Asha says to Matt Booty, hey, let's focus on an IP like Psychonauts, like you said, or even Brutal Legend. I mean, people have asked for that to come back for years.
Yeah.
And just, you know, say, hey, like, we have to understand that there's a lot of people that are fans of these IP and we haven't touched them in years, kind of like I always talk about SOCOM with Sony.
Yeah.
So understand that, and maybe somebody like Mathew Ball, who's the chief strategy officer, okay, maybe he sees that and understands it, and I'll leave it at that.
Great point. I mean, great point all around. Listen, Quark, before I bring you in, brother, I got to catch up on these 3 super chats. So first of all, Silent Cypher, how dare you, sir? He says, confirmed Xbox is not reviving Banjo-Kazooie. Boo this man. Throw the tomatoes at him for sure. I can't believe it. Braided Zeus, this is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen, has gifted 20 double-barreled gaming memberships. Brother, that is just... Everyone that has gifted subs today is just insane. Like, I can't even keep up with it. This might be the most we've ever had gifted subs in the entire channel's history. Brother, that's very generous of you. Thank you so much for that. Leonard Washington in the chat drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, doesn't make sense for OEM consoles. Developers were already making a pissy fit about the Series S. OEM means different configurations and different developments. Microsoft already said it won't. They want all done in-house. Well, here's the thing: the OEM devices that we're talking about are PCs. They're going to be consoles ultimately, but at their core, they're going to be PCs. And as we know, the lowest common denominator for PCs, when they develop a game, it's always made for the lowest common denominator. It's not consoles; it's PC. So these OEM devices, Leonard, are going to be basically just PC devices that are scaled to. So it's not going to be a problem. It would be the same as making a lowest common denominator for a laptop or an all-in-one. Can I play this game here? Yes, you can. No, you can't, because it doesn't have the specs. So I mean, all in-house, that was the old way. But based on what Asha sent out that letter, it does sound like they're going to be going OEM, because she said we have to look for partners. Partners in who? They've already worked with Asus. They're going to work with everybody. Anyone that wants to make an Xbox is going to be able to make an Xbox. So we'll see what happens, brother. But thank you so much for the generosity. Cork, I want to bring you in, dude. And you know what? Before I do have a couple of points of contention here. Now, he goes on to say that they are rethinking Project Helix and its hardware. And Mathew Bull goes on to say that the global component and RAM crisis heavily exacerbates the AI boom and has made manufacturing hardware more expensive and constrained. Because of this, Xbox is completely rethinking the business model and affordability of its next generation hardware plans. This is where the conversation of OEMs come in. But what's interesting here is he made mention of this, and I actually didn't know, Cork, how many subscribers they lost. Apparently, it was in millions. According to the interview, Ball publicly confirms that Xbox, quote, shed millions of subscribers in response to the aggressive price hikes for Game Pass Ultimate. He stressed that the business, quote, today is not healthy and requires a substantial turnaround. And that turnaround, we know, is coming this summer. According to Asha Sharma, some big changes, and maybe this is where the whole conversation with Mathew Ball and Shinobi 602 comes from, because of, they're going to make some changes. Asha said that different tiers, more affordable tiers, are going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass, and she specifically said the summer. What are your takeaways from all of the information from this interview with Christopher Dring?
It's a good interview. He did mention something that consoles are not dying, and I want to say he is correct.
Please talk about that.
He did say on the overall aspect of it, he is correct. Consoles aren't dying. What is dying is traditional consoles. And that's just the kind of, you plug into the bottom of your TV and that's it. That's where it stays. It's a closed ecosystem. It's not going to do anything else but just play console games only in one ecosystem. And that's why you've seen a lot of people switch to, or why you're seeing the Helix move to a hybrid model. Look how well it's done. And people may debate this or not. The Switch 2 is a hybrid console. It's a handheld and it's also a traditional console space. And it's done amazingly well. And that's why Helix, I think, switching over into a hybrid model is really, really, really good. And that's also kind of what fueled the whole multi-plat aspect of it. And that's, but just like 2013, with the Xbox One, they kind of ran before they could walk. And they invested a lot of stuff into mobile and cloud that weren't ready. I think they would have had they would have been in a lot healthier state if they were able to get mobile off the ground, but due to the whole, Google and Apple stuff, that completely shut down their mobile division, or their mobile plans, at least for now. Cloud still it's a good move, but still too in its infancy stage to really capitalize. And it just never took off, I think, as fast as they wanted to, which also added to that. Overall, I don't know. My stance on exclusives. I am not a big exclusive guy. I will say Gears E-Day makes sense to make it as a console exclusive. You gave, like I said earlier, you gave PS5 Gears of War Reloaded. Cool. You're invested in the storyline now. You want to finish that storyline, or you want to know how they got to that point? The only way you can do that is on Xbox. Smart. I've called that years ago that's the strategy they should do when they announce multi-platform. The only one that doesn't make sense to me is, and I'm a little worried about, is Clockwork Revolution, because that is a brand new, untested IP. And, when you're trying to get an IP off the ground like that, I don't know. It's a lot harder, and there's a lot more risks associated with that. And then I am happy he did say, though, they're looking to eat those costs if that's the case, which gives me hope that if Clockwork doesn't have the reception that they planned, or the anticipated sales that they hope it does, that they'll at least give NXL a second chance on something else. I'm hoping that's the plan. But again, the plan's the plan until it's not. So we'll see. I will say I am not a fan also of getting rid of these niche experiences. A lot of this is what it's telling me is they're going to start trimming down a lot. And that means, when you start removing consumer bases and you start looking to move away from certain gamer genres and even more other consumer bases, you're losing out on revenue. And when you lose out on revenue, that means your operational costs go through the roof. And when your operational costs go through the roof, the only way to solve that is studio closures and layoffs, which they've already mentioned. This is why I am not a massive fan of removing niche games, especially when the whole point, I saw Lucius in here earlier. He even mentioned it. The whole point of them getting a lot of these studios that we are beloved is because they do those niche games. And now when they don't have a platform to release those niche games, more than likely they're not going to be moved to a support studio. That's the sad. They're just going to get cut. They'll pick the pieces. They'll pick who they want to move to other studios, but more than likely a majority of that studio is going to get gutted. And shut down. That's just the sad reality of it. So that's my biggest concern with moving to exclusives and cutting out niche games, is that we're looking at heavy cuts, and then it probably won't stop there with his talk about Game Pass and ad-supported tiers, and it sounds like they're really gonna nickel and dime Game Pass, which means we're probably some of the stuff we have. This is all speculative, though, so I know I hate to be that Debbie Downer and stuff like that about it.
It's your opinion, brother. It's a good thought, because you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I understand what you're saying, and you might be onto something. When I say the niche experience is going away, I with you hope that doesn't happen. Yeah. But I do think that a directionalist way of doing business, hey, go make what you want and we'll come back to you in a couple of years, that didn't work. And personally, this is just me, as a fan of Tim Schafer and Double Fine, I have been for years. Mr. BoomStick XL, instead of playing Keeper, which was beautiful and an incredible, no words were spoken the entire time experience, and playing Kiln, what would I rather have? Those two experiences, or a remake of Psychonauts 1 or Psychonauts 3? Those are the games that I would have made. So if somebody would have said, hey, listen, we like these ideas, but this is what's going to move money. This is what's going to move consoles. This is going to get people to buy into the subscription service. People are going to buy this game. It's going to be multi-plat because the other ones were. Let's do a remake. Why? Well, there's a multitude of levels. Besides the game itself, because Psychonauts 1 is amazing and deserves a remake, you could then transition that into transmedia, meaning that if you were to get a deal on an animated series or a graphic novel or comic, whatever, right? You can then transition that into your bigger budgeted Psychonauts 3, which then people would be hip for, and then might even get your sales in for Psychonauts 2, which, by the way, was on a lot of people's lists for Game of the Year in 2021. Do you see how? Yeah. See what I'm saying?
So with Double Fine, the reasons they did Kiln and Keeper is because they're low cost development to potentially get higher ROI into your stuff, and they help you fund other projects. So they're smaller teams, like you said, and they're able to sustain development and keep a pipeline of revenue going to support their other projects. So Double Fine is working on something else right now. What it is, I don't know. But they do have a bigger AAA, or not AAA, I guess, title, but they do have a bigger title than what Keeper and Kiln is in the works, is from what I'm hearing. So that is coming. Yeah. So that's what usually why Kiln and Keeper were done, is because they help sustain revenue. And they keep you relevant, they keep you engaged, things like that with the platform, which is what Xbox wanted for Game Pass, is to have a consistent flow of content coming to that service. But yeah, so that's the thing, is so I don't know. I don't want any studio to close down. I don't want any of that, layoffs to happen. But that's just the sad reality, is when you start removing consumer bases, like with exclusivity and niche games, this is the sad reality of it. And that's why partly coming from a developer standpoint, I hate exclusives, because I feel everybody should. You have to add value to your platform. Totally understandable, 100%. And that's why I get Gears of War as I think Halo, the next Halo should be a console exclusive. Your tentpole titles. I don't think Forza should, because I think Forza just makes way too much money for them to just say, there's too much money on the table for Forza to say, yeah, we're going to get rid of that revenue stream. And, I don't think it would have the impact that it would, removing it from making a console only exclusive. It sells too much to do that. It's the Call of Duty kind of racers, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just too big to not keep it exclusive. But I don't know. I think a lot of what Xbox is going to be coming out with that's actually pure Xbox Studio, I think those will probably be console exclusives. I can't see them rolling back Bethesda. Elder Scrolls 6, I don't think will be a console exclusive.
Should be a timed exclusive, personally. That's what I would hold it for a year. But again, that's a conversation for another day, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, something like that. I expect more time. I don't think they're going to change rapidly their stance on exclusives. I think majority of what Xbox has will be still multi-platform, but you will see probably their more tentpole successful IPs probably scaled back a bit to just Steam PC or Windows, Xbox PC, and Xbox consoles.
Well, I mean, listen, great points all around. And yes, and I do appreciate your developer ideology, because obviously you didn't know he did work for EA Cork, so he has developed games. So I understand your stance on it, but again, I think in a perfect gaming world, Fuzzy Belvedere, every game would be everywhere, right? Everyone, you're playing Smash Brothers on PlayStation. I'm playing Zelda, the new Ocarina Time on Xbox, and on the Switch, you're playing, Gears of War E-Day. And I mean, you couldn't run it obviously, but you know what I mean, right? Obviously, that's a world that doesn't exist. It's never going to exist. So again, going back to Sony being who they are, if they had it their way, they would be smiling as they're drowning Xbox, because that's just who they are. But I do want to bring you in, Fuzzy Belvedere, and get your hot take on this interview with Mathew Ball. And again, just getting back to something that Cork had led with, he goes on to talk about the console market not dying, and I don't think the console market is going away. First of all, there are people still playing on Xbox 360 and PS3s. Now, how many of those people, I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you indubitably is that 49 plus million players are playing on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 hardware, PlayStation 4 Pro hardware. Also, not to be outdone, and a lot less for sure, 1/5 less, there are 10 million players on an Xbox One X and S right now today. So that equates to damn near 60 million players that might actually come over to the next generation. And I think I'm not saying all of them are going to be. It just really drives the point home that the console market is not dying. Now, he goes on to say, dismissing rumors that the console sector is in terminal decline, Ball has affirmed that the console industry is still a, quote, massive and highly valuable and durable market with hundreds of millions of engaged players. This is confirmed. And again, the guy knows his numbers. He's the numbers guy. But I want to get your thoughts on this interview with Mathew Ball via Christopher Dring. What were some of your personal highlights?
I like the fact that when something's a little too early to talk about, he'll just basically say no comment, or I kind of plead the fifth. So I like that they're not too over talkative, although I see some in the gaming media saying that they should shut up and blah blah blah. But hopefully those outlets don't get the interviews in the future. So let them expose themselves who they are. But the key things when it comes to that interview that I take away, as far as like whether we briefly touching on some of the cutbacks and things along those lines, like I would say there is that potential that we could see some layoffs at some key studios. I honestly think more of that brunt of the number might be seen at places like Activision. I don't think it affects the the double fines or the compulsions quite like people are speculating, because one with Double Fine, I think they have two cards that they can play. One, they're either doing Brutal Legend 2 or they're doing Psychonauts 3 right now as we speak, and that's something that I don't think Xbox wants to part ways with, considering how well, once they came into the fold, Psychonauts 2 did. And two, because we've seen things like with Toys for Bob as well as with Tango Gameworks, a closure might not be the best PR move. It might be better to offer them an opt-out or a buyout type of thing so they can be independent again. And I think a studio like Double Fine would be able to pull that off, or be able to find investors to help them pull that off. So I don't think they want to break that relationship with that type of studio. I don't think they would want to close them either. But if it, push came to shove, I think having it where they become independent again, and then possibly contracting them for, future IP or projects might be the better approach or route. Same thing with Compulsion. I think with Compulsion, they have a couple of key things in their IP catalog, which, yes, there probably needs to be a little bit better marketing for South of Midnight to get it in front of more gamers and showing how good of a platformer it is. Maybe some tweaks to the combat overall, and that could be, rectified with a South of Midnight 2 type of thing. But they also have contrast, and they also have We Happy Few that they can kind of go back to, and now they would have that full potential as far as financials to be able to get that vision across the finish line the way that they intend. Now, the key thing is, I do think some of these, passion projects like your Bleeding Edge, your Pentiments, things like that might be rolled back a bit, unless they're the type that can be a games as a service or service live model type of game. Like, I still think they'll do something like Grounded. I still think, especially considering the update to something like Sea of Thieves, they'll continue to, find different ways with like a Forge mode for that. And I think that's a way to extend that life. But on the flip side of things, I think Rare is going to have to, and I hate this, refer to them as lazy devs, because they're not. They're going to have to get off their butt and do something other than Sea of Thieves. And I think that's going to be a demand that they're either going to rise to the occasion or they're going to get closed. That I think is going to be probably the saddest part, but Rare is going to have to do something more than Sea of Thieves. You can't, yes, it's still bringing in money. Yes, they did that Forge mode, which is going to continue to bring in money and players and things, but it feels like they're either going to have to visit some of their old IP or some of the numerous IPs amongst the Xbox fold, whether they're Activision titles or otherwise. It's going to be something like, it's on your desk, either do your homework or get the F out kind of thing. And I don't necessarily want that to happen, but I could see that being the case. And that might also be the case for some other studios where it's time to revisit some of Xbox's old IP to at least get things going. And I said this on Mav's show last night, no disrespect to Todd Howard, but I think he's going to have a similar demand where it's like, hey, you focus on Elder Scrolls 6 to get that out the door. We're going to hand Fallout 5 to Obsidian and Exile. You have a problem with it, there's a door. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but I think stuff like that needs to happen because they need to have a Fallout game that's more than just Fallout 76 in players' hands while the TV series is gaining, interest and stuff like that. So those are some of the things that I think will be part of the hard decisions. I don't think it'll be as much the studio closures. I think it will be the orders from the top down that, and while the previous leadership wasn't about that, I think this leadership is going to look at the numbers and be like, you don't have the collateral now to state that you're going to do these passion projects and have it not reach what our balance sheets need kind of thing. And that's not to say, down with creativity and stuff, but I do think there will be priorities like, hey, put out Fallout 5 and then you can do your passion project. Go ahead and put out, True Crimes or something like that to some of the Activision studios, and then you can work on your passion project. I could foresee that being part of the deal, but I like the fact that you have a numbers guy, and he kind of hinted to they may start talking about like the actual numbers of console sales and not just active users and things, because I do think even though honestly, it shouldn't mean anything to us as gamers. We should be more concerned about the games, but having some of that, those numbers on Front Street and showing that you're making improvements and gaining some market share, I think is going to help with that momentum and continuing to see if, hey, these paths that we've taken with these, first handful of exclusives. All right, let's see if we turn it up another notch. And I could foresee an exclusive being like an annual thing where, something that's coming out the following year after Clockwork Revolution will also be exclusive. And it looks like that's going to be the beginnings of that slow transition to kind of get the player base used to. Could I see something like Elder Scrolls go full exclusive? I could, but I do like the idea of the timed exclusives, and it's much like what I posted on social media before, where if you're an Xbox studio, your games are Xbox only. Now that may cause some studios to shift, like maybe Playground goes to Activision or is under that umbrella, but Xbox studios are exclusive to the platform. Bethesda gets you that 12-month to 24-month timed exclusive, and then Activision games, with the exception of new IP or for the streets kind of deal. I could see that being a course of action, but I think Xbox in general is a big enough company to kind of navigate all of those things, whether it's the exclusives, day and date on Game Pass, as well as, still having those unique, quirky games, but, maybe they're after, what would be the unit seller or the must-have app on the console that will help, solidify the platform and bring more people to the platform. So it looks like you have numbers people that are paying attention to the business in a way that it didn't seem like previous leadership were. Previous leadership, by all means, did a great job, because we wouldn't have something like Persona 6 day one in Game Pass if it wasn't for someone like Sarah Bond. We wouldn't have had something like Ninja Gaiden 4, as even though it wasn't a console exclusive, but having that IP return and be in Game Pass. That's thanks to Phil and Sarah, making those trips to Japan and working with those devs. So I hope that some of those efforts aren't lost with this current leadership, but I do like the fact that they are going to look at the numbers and make it so this platform is going to be meaningful, not just to current users and gamers within the Xbox ecosystem, but also appealing to those that are on the outside that are like, I may not be a Gears fan, but man, Clockwork Revolution looked like that game that, is worth buying this console. And if they have to push it as, hey, maybe your PS5 is your primary, your Xbox is your secondary for those exclusives. And they're going to continue that pipeline to have those exclusives to give you that reason to pick up that box. So I like where they're at right now and the potential that we see in them, but I'm not looking forward to, the potential of layoffs or cutbacks or closures, but this industry has been volatile for, as long as we can all remember. So they may be one of the first ones doing the layoffs and the closures, and I would expect that other platforms are going to do similar. Like, nobody seems to, or I guess because of the recent talks with Xbox, people have forgotten that Bungie is still on the cusp of not being in existence. People have seemed to forgot that Nix is not being a necessity anymore if they're not going to port their single player games over to PC. What's the purpose of having Nixus? They already closed Bluepoint. Not Firewall? Well, Haven Studio. They had to rename the game, and it already seems from the the buzz or lack of buzz on the game that it's already kind of DOA at this point. And there's other studios like Bend where all of their projects that they've pitched have been shot down. And one of the ones that was greenlit, that was that games as a service, I think that got canceled. So it's like there's across the industry turmoil that's going to happen. Will Xbox be the first one to make that unfortunate announcement? Possibly, but don't forget that others have made it. And about that whole advertising, I love how disingenuous the gaming media is when it comes to, hey, ads suck. Yes, they do, if they're done like the mobile apps and games and things like that. But hey, did anybody complain once when Death Stranding had Monster in the game?
No. Nope.
I didn't hear one people. In fact, people were like, oh, that makes me want to go drink a Monster. Did anybody complain about what was it, Intergalactic? I think that's that new game when she's wearing Adidas. I mean, sure, they're Sony, so a Sony CD player in the game is no big deal. But did anybody complain about Porsche being on the spaceship? No?
That would be no, sir.
Yeah. So either be fair and balanced or shut the F up about, advertising. Don't say, oh, because Xbox is doing it, it's bad. But when others do it, oh, it's perfectly fine. So
that's such a great idea that they're doing it. Xbox, terrible. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been one hell of a 2+ hour show, which I didn't anticipate being, but we have a lot of people on the panel and everyone's opinion matters, and everyone had outstanding opinions. Real quick, Silent Cypher, not to be outdone, goes on to say, careful, Boom, those tomatoes have higher value than the banjo IP in today's climate. How dare you, unkind sir? Don't have people waste their tomatoes. Save them for a rainy day. And of course, Dan the Man Cunningham. Dan, it's so great to see you here. He has gifted not one but two double-barrel gaming memberships. So, folks, listen, a lot of new members. If you did get any of the, geez, I lost count how many we got. Probably around 50-something today, maybe more than that. Please thank your contributor because these aren't free. They're donating. They're literally donating the money for them. So if you did get a sub, thank everybody. Real quick before we get out of here, I'll do a quick sub check to see if we hit 17K. I did drop the link in there. I will drop it one more time. We're 12 away, folks. That hasn't moved, so it's fine. If you want to sub, awesome. Here's the link. Well, one more time before we get, so we do outros. Oh, no, that was let me get to that. So you know what? Let's start with outros so we can get everyone out of here. It's been a long show. We'll start first with the Korkenstein. Cork, obviously, I'm sure you recorded a bunch of footage while you were there. I don't know about if you're having as much problems as I'm having. I do it solo like you. I'm trying to get as much content out, and there's a lot. Like, I recorded so much that it's not hard to drag and drop, but I like doing the production for it. I don't want to just, make it noisy. I try to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. More content's coming, folks. But Cork, sell the brand, brother. Where can people not only subscribe to the newly formed YouTube channel, but what do you got going on at the subreddit?
Yeah, so thank you to everybody. Always talking. It was great. Like I said, it was great to see you again, Boom, Silent, and Fuzzy, to meet your wife as well. Crispy, I hope we get you out there next year. Yeah, it was great to see you guys this last weekend and have this podcast. It was a great conversation. Thank you to everyone in chat. I've been able to talk to a lot of you guys out there. Appreciate you guys being in there and having such great conversations. Yeah, the Xbox subreddit right now is taking all, because that's how I was able to do play days, was because of the Xbox subreddit. So all of my time is going into that. I have 3 previews coming out. One, Way of the Woods. The other one is Sea of Remnants. And then, yes, I played Star Wars Galactic Racer.
Oh, that was a good one. I couldn't get into that, dude. Awesome.
Yep, I was able to play that. That's all I can say. But I will have a preview for that coming up as well later in the month. So yeah, that's all my time right now for Korkenstein Gaming. What I'm thinking of doing is planning out a podcast, basically, but it's going to be just about games. I like doing the new stuff and everything like that, but what I want to do is, hey, I'm looking for content creators that like Forza. So Fuzzy, you, anybody else, and we're just going to talk about the history of Forza, what we like about each game, what we like, make it more about the game than, it's too easy to get into the business aspect of stuff, and we lose sight about what gaming really is, and it's about the games and enjoying them with our beautiful friends and family. So and like Silent, he said he likes Forza as well. So yeah, we would have a podcast just about Forza. That's the idea. About actually, getting it into play is a different story. So hopefully I can end this month with all my preview coverage for our Xbox. Nice. And then I can start my coverage with Korkenstein Gaming. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, the Korkenstein, and you could find me on YouTube at Korkenstein Gaming.
Nice, brother. Well, looking forward to that. And yes, when you're ready to do the podcast, let me know. I'll jump on that Forza conversation. I got to get back actually to Forza Horizon 6 and sew up some achievements and try and finish the tournament altogether. I got to get the golden ticket. I'm like just maybe an hour worth of play to get the purple, and then I could work on getting the golden wristband. But thanks so much, Jago6. Great to see you here, brother. He says Forza Horizon 6 is awesome. Yeah, it's one of my favorite experiences of the year. Crispy Bomb, Mr. Receipt Keeper, which again, I'm not going to mention names, but man, you really do keep those receipts. You and Dirt, you guys are undefeated in receipt keeping because wow, have you been doing it? Sell the brand, brother. Are you going to join us on Monday? Because if you do, I have a particular topic in mind that not only you, but Forza Belvedere is going to dig. I think this is going to be a very pointed conversation. But sell the brand. Where can people follow you on the socials to get the crispy truth alongside a hearty helping of receipts.
Well, I mean, a lot of people know that, hey, like you got to challenge me to get those receipts. Generally, I will just show you what you said and call it a day. At Chris Baum on X, Chris Baum 20 Xbox Live. Unfortunately, next week is a vacation week for my assistant manager. So
you're going to be working.
Yeah, I'm going to be working all week, and that is unfortunate because I'm sure there's going to be some news bombs at some point. But it is what it is. Maybe one of maybe prime time I could show up.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Sure.
Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, other than that, hey, we are Xbox people. Let's go. Okay, Gears is back. Enjoy it. Understand that, they're coming for us, and that's it. So let's go, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks so much for being here. Of course, Silent Cypher, sell the brand. Where can people follow you on the socials? And what else you got going on, dude?
Well, of course, thanks for having me. Thanks for hanging out with you gentlemen this morning. You can always find me on social media as being an ass goblin, maybe slandering some Banjo-Kazooie.
How dare you, sir?
As usual.
Mute him.
Mute him. But yeah, no, you can find me there, of course. Find me here every other Friday morning hanging out with these gentlemen. Find me this evening hanging out with Fuzzy and his wife Fee and Presto as we talk about the movie The Descent on Fright Nights with Ferocious Fee. Besides that, I don't think you're going to find me too much. I'm finally back in town, and I'm going to be working on much needed house projects and stuff that I've been avoiding neglecting for the last week or two. My wife was like, "Oh, hey, it's great to have you back from the event. We got stuff to work on."
Here's the tool bag. Get working.
There's a yard that needs to be weed whacked, so I'm going to be busy, but hopefully you'll catch me playing some games. If you see me playing something like Forza Horizon, feel free to jump in, hit me up. Silent Cypher on Xbox as well, and all the socials.
Shout out to Gamer Geek, says great show guys. As always, I appreciate the discussion. Have a blessed weekend. And for you, Silent Cypher, Sea Lord of Bararos says ass goblin is such an underrated phrase. Indeed, sir. Indeed.
Bringing it back.
He's bringing it back. I love it. Forza Belvedere, sell the brand of course, tonight's horror-based podcast on Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Talk about the time, where they can subscribe, and more importantly, The Descent. Good film, older film for sure, but wild ending for that particular one. Oh, you're muted.
Oh man, it's just such a great time to be on this podcast with you guys. Love getting to meet some of you guys in person. Sooner or later, me and Crispy will be able to see each other. Man, it's been a fantastic, past few weeks as far as Xbox and gaming in general. As always, you can find my rambles and rants on social media. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You'll be able to find me. Thanks to everybody that has been watching our shows here. Definitely like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate it. For those that are into horror, I put the link in the chat for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Just like Silent Cypher said earlier, we'll be talking about The Descent. Interesting movie. A little couple of frustrating moments for me, only because not that I've, scaled in caves and things like that, but some things were just frustrating, but still a good movie, great horror movie. And check out our review and chat about it tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, the link is in the chat. And as always, clear that backlog. We got bombarded with some games. There's going to be a ton of games between now and September. And then we're already starting off 2027 with a few right off the rip in February with Fable. So it's a great time to be a gamer, especially if you're an Xbox gamer. Keep playing games and having fun. Less social media, or if you're on social media, pay no mind to the haters on the gaming media side. They're kind of showing their true colors right now. But other than that, have fun, be safe out there, and see y'all on Monday for Xbox Lunch Break Special.
Indeed. Real quick, just a quick announcement. A game called Beatdown City Survivors just dropped into Game Pass.
So
if you like Vampire Survivors and you like beat 'em ups, you should try. It's very unique. It has a crazy hip hop soundtrack, and it's in Game Pass. Give it a. So I like it. I like it a lot. I don't love it yet, but it has a lot of like characters to unlock. A lot of it's not your typical Survivors where it's just one, like circle you're running around in. It's actually running around in a city, and there's like alleyways and streets and cars to explode. It's a little difficult for sure, but I give it a shot. If you like Survivor type games, it's called Beatdown City Survivors. Give it the old college effort. It was recommended to me by Kay Asante. I'm enjoying it. I don't love it yet, but real quick, if you look on your Xbox dashboard, Zombie Survivors has a free trial, so you can give that a shot as well. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, a ginormous thank you for the redonkulous amount of super chats and channel and gifted subs that came in. It was just absolutely just insane. We have a couple of more. The legendary Xbot drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "What's up, Boom and crew? You got the best show besides WBG and TTS crew. My respect for you is through the roof, brother." That's very kind of you to say, to be compared to Dirt. I talk about Dirt's podcast all the time. Joey, Ray, Sean, they deliver each and every week. I love what they do, and of course, the One Man Dark Man, which I was actually listening to this morning, was another phenomenal effort by Dirt. And so to be in the same sentence is a big deal for us. So thank you so much for the kind words, and of course, generosity. And it's me, the broke boy, not to be outdone, drops an additional very generous $5 super chat, and it says, "Alien Isolation 2 is looking for content creators in the North and South America. I think Fuzzy should try to get there." Yeah, you absolutely should try. They're asking for it. You know what? I'll send you the direct link, Fuzzy. I reached out, and I'm hoping to not only review that, but I'm hoping to be able to review Alien Fireteam Elite 2 as well. I got a preview that I got hands on that I'm going to be putting up over the weekend, probably early next week. I have to scrub through the B-roll to see if it's mine or just general B-roll. But yeah, I did get hands on it, so I'm going to give my opinion. I'm literally playing through one right now, and it's just phenomenal, and the second one's even better. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here. Thank you so much for, of course, hanging out. Thank you once again for the extreme generosity. And of course, we're going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope one day will be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. He'd say, "Craig, treat others how you want to be treated, and also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day." So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.